One old jet built 50 years ago, now hunting Iranian speedboats in the Strait of Hormuz. It flies low, it flies slow, and it carries a cannon so powerful the recoil is stronger than one of its own engines. The Pentagon confirmed it on March 19, 2026. The A-10 Warthog is killing fast attack boats in Hormuz. Over 120 Iranian vessels already gone. And here's the part nobody expected. A jet everyone wanted to retire is now doing a job no modern fighter can do better or cheaper. So why is this plane perfect for hunting boats in Hormuz? Let's break it down. By the end of this video, you will see exactly why no F-35, no F-22, and no F-15EX can replace what the Warthog is doing right now over those waters. You will learn why one cheap burst from its gun is smarter than firing a missile worth more than a house. And you will see why the US Air Force is suddenly very glad this old bird is still flying. Let's start with the battlefield. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow stretch of water between Iran and Oman. It is tight, it is crowded, and it is the most important shipping lane on the planet. Roughly 20% of the world's oil passes through this strait every single day. Iran knows this, and Iran uses it. For years, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, known as the IRGC, has relied on small, fast, cheap speedboats to threaten oil tankers. These boats are tiny, they move quickly, they hide along the Iranian coastline, and they swarm in packs. In 2020, 11 of these Iranian boats came within 10 yards of a US Navy warship. Now in 2026, during Operation Epic Fury, these same boats are trying to shut the strait down completely. Oil prices have already pushed past $100 per barrel. About 20,000 sailors are stuck on 200 vessels, unable to move. The US needed an answer, and the answer turned out to be an old friend. Here is something most people never think about. A modern fighter jet, like an F-35 or an F-16, is built for speed. These jets are fast, too fast. Their engines are tuned for supersonic flight. That means they have a very high stall speed. If they slow down too much, they fall out of the sky. So when one of these jets tries to attack a small boat, moving at 40 miles per hour, it overshoots the target in a blink. Pilot gets maybe 1 or 2 seconds to aim. Then he has to circle around, burn more fuel, and try again. That is not hunting, that is chasing. There is another problem: cost. A modern missile like the AGM-65 Maverick can cost well over $100,000 per shot. Some precision bombs cost even more. Firing one of those at a small fiberglass speedboat makes no sense. It is like using a sledgehammer to kill a mosquito. It works, but you go broke doing it. This is exactly where the A-10 Warthog comes in, and this is where it starts to shine. The A-10 was never built to be fast. It was built to be deadly at low altitude. The jet is subsonic. That means it flies slower than the speed of sound. A lot of people see that as a weakness. In Hormuz, it is the biggest strength. Warthog can drop down low, right above the water, and fly slow enough to actually see what it is attacking. It can hang around for hours. According to the US Air Force, A-10 can operate under cloud ceilings as low as 1,000 feet with only 1.5 miles of visibility. No other jet in the American fleet can say that. When an Iranian speedboat tries to hide near the coast or dart between oil tankers, the A-10 has the time and the angle to line it up properly. It does not overshoot. It does not waste a pass. It gets on target, stays on target, and finishes the job. And then there is the weapon built into the nose. The one that changed everything. Most jets are designed to carry a gun. The A-10 is the opposite. The gun was designed first. Then they built a jet around it. The weapon is called the GAU-8 Avenger. It is a 30mm 7-barrel Gatling cannon. It is nearly 20 feet long. It takes up 16% of the entire weight of the airplane. If you remove the gun, jet tips backward onto its tail. That is how big it is. When the pilot pulls the trigger, the cannon fires 900 rounds per minute. Each round is the size of a glass bottle. Each bullet leaves the barrel at 113 meters per second. That is faster than the speed of sound 3 times over. Here is a wild fact. Coil of this gun is stronger than the thrust of one of the A-10's 2 engines. When it fires, the whole plane slows down a little in mid-air. Other aircraft in history carries a gun this powerful, and the accuracy is unreal. At 4,000 feet away, 80% of the rounds land inside a 40-foot circle. For a moving speedboat, that is more than enough. Here is the part that is making generals rethink everything. A single 30mm round fired from the A-10 costs only a tiny fraction of what a guided missile costs. We are talking a few dollars per bullet, versus more than $100,000 per missile. Now think about the target. A small Iranian speedboat is made of fiberglass or thin metal. It has no armor. It carries maybe a few machine guns and some rockets. It is cheap to build. Iran can make dozens of them. So the math becomes very simple. The US Navy fires $1 million missile at a $20,000 boat. Iran wins the money war even while losing the boat. That is exactly what Iran wants. Drain America's wallet one shot at a time. The A-10 flips that math upside down. One pass, one burst. Maybe 100 rounds. Total cost, very small. The boat is destroyed. Pilot still has over 1,000 rounds left in the magazine. He can hit another boat, and another, and another. Defense One reported American experts are now calling the A-10's role in Hormuz a wake-up call. Using F-35s against cheap Iranian threats was called unsustainable. A-10 solves that problem in the most American way possible. Bullets, not missiles. On March 19, 2026, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Air Force General Dan Kane, stood at the Pentagon and said it out loud. His exact words, "The A-10 Warthog is now in the fight across the southern flank and is hunting and killing fast, attack watercraft in the Strait of Hormuz." At that point, U.S. forces had already destroyed more than 120 Iranian naval vessels. Another 44 mine-laying boats were also taken out. CENTCOM posted the footage. CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper promised to keep going until Iran's ability to threaten the strait was gone for good, and the A-10 is carrying more than just the cannon. CENTCOM photos have shown Warthogs flying with AGM-65 Maverick missiles and a PKWS laser-guided 70mm rockets. Those rockets cost around $20,000 each, much cheaper than full-size missiles, and still smart enough to hit a moving target. The Warthog can also carry IM-9M Sidewinder missiles for self-defense, and even use them against Iranian suicide drones if needed. A PKWS rockets can also knock drones out of the sky, so one jet. Multiple jobs, cheap cost. No wonder the crews love it. Coming up, I want to show you why this aircraft refuses to die, and why a lot of people in Washington tried to kill it for years. For almost 20 years, U.S. Air Force tried to retire the A-10. They said it was too old. They said the F-35 would replace it. They said the days of a slow, gun-firing attack jet were over. Every year, somebody in the Pentagon would try to send the Warthog to the boneyard, and every year, something stopped them. Sometimes it was a new war. Sometimes it was Congress. Sometimes it was the pilots who refused to give up. In the 2026 National Defense Authorization Act, Congress locked in a minimum of 103 A-10s through September 30, 2026, ordered the Air Force to stop rushing to retire them. Why? Because when real shooting starts, the A-10 always shows up and gets the job done. In the 1991 Gulf War, 10s destroyed over 900 Iraqi tanks. In Iraq and Afghanistan, they protected American troops on the ground countless times. In 2011, during the Libya operation, A-10 and a P-3 Orion teamed up to attack a patrol boat and small craft in Misrata. That was the first hint the Warthog could hunt at sea. Now in 2026, Hormuz has proven it beyond doubt. The U.S. Air Force has invested decades in this jet, and that investment is paying off in the exact kind of fight nobody planned for. Hunting boats in Hormuz is not safe. Iran uses shoulder-fired missiles called Man-P-80s. They are small, portable, and easy to hide along the coast. For most aircraft, flying low near these threats is a death sentence. For the A-10, it is a Tuesday. The A-10 was built with a titanium bathtub around the pilot. This armor is thick enough to stop heavy machine gun fire. The fuel tanks are self-sealing. The control system has backups for the backups. If one engine gets hit, other keeps flying. If the hydraulics fail, manual cables take over. Warthogs have famously returned to base with half a wing missing, engines on fire, huge holes in the fuselage. No other American jet can take that kind of punishment. This is why General Kane feels comfortable sending A-10s into Iranian coastal airspace to hunt those boats. If it gets hit, it still comes home. And there is one more piece to this story. The part that might surprise you most. Iran has also been using something new. Explosive drone boats. These are small boats with no crew, packed with explosives, and steered toward American ships. You may have heard about these from the war in Ukraine, but Iran actually started using them years earlier in the Middle East. These drone boats are fast, small, and hard to hit from a warship. But from above, an A-10 loitering overhead, they are just another target. The pilot spots them early, dives in, fires a burst of 30mm rounds, and the threat disappears before it ever reaches a tanker or destroyer. In February 2026, just weeks before the war began, A-10s were already training for this mission with the USS Santa Barbara, a literal combat ship. That training turned into real combat almost overnight. The U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Navy working together, using a 50-year-old plane to defeat 21st-century threats. That is American engineering and American teamwork at its best. A-10 is perfect for hunting boats in Hormuz